happening right there. Across the road, I think it was Prune Ridge Avenue, I think. Right across the road was APD, which is where they made the calculators. It was just amazing. I mean, as a young kid, just out of, just first year at Howard, it was an amazing time. I mean, it really truly was the golden age. People were actually making machines. You actually had to understand how things really, really worked and put them together. And it was fun working that first assignment, that first year. And the startup culture, if you will, when you're around a startup that actually became successful. And back in those days, you actually had to create a startup, you had to become profitable, and you had to have hockey stick growth while that was going on. And when you see that, you say, gosh, I want to do this. I want to create this thing myself. And so I had this idea. And you think it's all about just coming up with the design, and you realize that it's a whole lot more. And my very first product was called Proto-Go. And I says, if I can make it through this 1 week, I can survive. And figured out the problem, solved it, got that first order, and that was, it was on like Donkey Kong from there. So it was good. So.
How many companies did you develop or build?
Over the years, probably about 4 or 5. Some were successors, some were failures. Some took a long time to fail, which is the worst kind. But you learn. Gosh, you learn a lot. You learn a lot. You learn how to handle risk. You learn a lot about marketing that you kind of learn on your feet. You learn a lot about your customers. I think that's the main thing. That's what I've learned the most of.
And that's why I'm not interested. And David Packard called me and asked to get to come. He had a job for me at Livermore. I didn't know what that was, but since the head man was doing it, I thought I would find it interesting. He was very unusual. He found an interest in me because of what I knew, what I could do. And otherwise, this was very racist. Bill Hewlett was not.
We didn't even know he had a job. we knew he would go somewhere. We'd take him to these little trailers in Palo Alto, which was Hewlett Packard, and they were in little trailers on Page Mill Road. We'd take him up, my mother, my 2 brothers and I, so it'd be 5 of us in the car, including him. We'd drop him off at this little trailer, and that was probably 8 in the morning, come back at 7 o'clock at night and pick him up. And he never talked about what he did. Well, Rodell it started, Hewlett Packard was very quality conscious, safety conscious. So one of the tests that they wanted to perform on their product before it was boxed and shipped out was that it was electrically sound. So basically if there was a power surge, that whatever you're using wouldn't short out or catch fire and injure the person that was using it. It wasn't a required test by Underwriters Laboratories at the time, but Hewlett Packard decided to implement this and make this a standard test that they would perform. So we started making this product. It's called a HIPOT, H-I-P-O-T. H-I-P-O-T stands for high potential, but also known as dielectric withstand, meaning that it can withstand a certain amount of voltage, power surge, and not catch fire. So that test became required by underwriters laboratories. The letter U and L circled is UL. And so we went from Hewlett-Packard, just making them specifically for Hewlett-Packard, to when it became a requirement by UL, everybody had to perform this test. So from Hewlett-Packard to IBM, Philips, Siemens, all the major companies and all the industries used Rodell equipment. So we were the world leader in this particular product. So Hewlett-Packard has our product on every one of their production lines. It's, in fact, we're spec'd in. They have to buy.
Actually, you physically did what I hope this film is going to do, and that was to show them that we have a presence here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, and one of my premises of this film is that we made a significant difference. What significant difference do you think you made at, say, at Minolta or TRW or Lockheed?
I think the biggest was at Lockheed. Before I got there, software was still kind of a mystery, you know, and so I brought this thing called software configuration management and quality assurance, and which nobody understood because, you know, they couldn't put their fingers on it. They were used to hardware. And so I set up that discipline, if you will, which is very much ingrained in the company now. And all of it was from my initial setup of that program. That's probably one of my legacies at Lockheed. At Minolta, I was the first black, first female manager in all of Minolta, including the Japan offices. And so I was kind of different. You know, people would come out from Japan and look at me. You know, they'd say, "Where'd she come from? What?" So anyway, I was a manager of test there. So.
You know, one of the complaints that we get from the young people that we recruit. I heard with the part where you're talking about what you had to learn in terms of intellectual property and the law.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like it was unknown to everybody.
It was.
So
Brand new field.
the work you
We
did
had to
there,
teach the lawyers.
that's where I'm headed.
Yeah.
But you were in that sphere. The work you did was the basis for probably a lot of the litigation that went on after you
Absolutely.
left that, right?
In fact, one of our attorneys wrote a textbook during that process that was in turn used by students that were studying law in college, because it was cutting edge. It was brand new. There was no previous precedence for any of that, and we had to go through the process of discovery, understanding, and ultimately perfection. You know, being able to say these are things that need to be done from a technology point of view to make it better. You know, not just from a asset protection point of view, but also from a usability point of view, make the product more usable.
Right.
So I really enjoyed it.
And see, that's the kind of thing I want to bring out, is that we were at the table when these things were being developed.
Oh, yes. One interesting project I worked on, we introduced kanji into all of IBM products. And this was back in the 1980s. And the markets in the Orient were just emerging for computer usage, but their language is different. And not only is it different in terms of spoken and written, but they have thousands of characters that represent their language. Well, computers weren't designed to manage thousands of characters like that. You know, they were designed for the English language in our 24 characters or 26 characters or whatever languages we supported. So I worked on a project to go through IBM in less than a year's time and take every system, every application, every piece of hardware and convert it to an operating environment where they could recognize these characters. And we had to go through every piece of code and find where those characters were manipulated because we needed more bits to represent the characters, if you get my drift. So we had to go find where all of those bit representations were and change it. And at the time, I was managing a group that was doing a printing device. And I had to work with the Japanese and the Koreans and learn a little bit about their culture and their language so that we could make sure that we were providing them, the end user, with what they needed and they could use. That was fun.
When I was building something or designing something, I didn't necessarily say, oh, this is going to change the world. I said, this has solved some problems. It was people around me, my management, and other people I was working with that said, wow, I think we can, this is going to work. This can be a system that we can use. And I had some good management that were confident in me and allowed me to build what I thought was the right thing to build. Little did they know that they gave me just enough freedom to do some things that became successful. And it had not been done as openly, meaning there were not a lot of systems around at the time that could do this graphical interface that I was working on. It established a standard that others could build to, and it opened the industry to lots of possibilities. That was that and allowing people to build the exact same thing and call it IBM PC compatible established industry. That's what created what we now know as the PC industry, and where companies were selling literally millions of systems.
Right now, we're preparing kids for, to be emotionally strong, to be disciplined both physically, mentally, and spiritually. And for me, it's pretty simple. I just need to follow the blueprint my parents laid out, which was to say, I need you to have some clarity about who you want to be and who you are. I'm fully in support of that, but it's about what you decide. I can't make you make decisions about what you think you are, right? But I want you to be passionate about pursuing the things that make you who you are. Think big. You can do whatever God's laid out for you is right there in front of you. And so think big. And I tell my kids the same thing. There is nothing in between you and success other than time. So you need to step forward. And so I think we need to tell these generational stories. We need our own media because the stories of urban plight are misrepresented. People don't know this. We are achieving degrees at all-time high in terms of rates. In terms of the black women right now, the highest percentage of people with master's degrees are black women. But we don't talk about that, how we are achieving. And as I mentioned before, we only started having access to education in the 70s. So black people are doing things in amazing ways right now, but we're not telling those stories. We're not capturing that energy. And it will be a different narrative. And so I mourn for George Floyd. I mourn for Breonna Taylor. I just need us to tell the other stories of the incredible things and people who are going out there and changing the world every day and doing great things.